Hi everybody, this is Dino from Prehistoric Facts, and this is a special episode. We got two dinosaurs to talk about, and let's actually talk about the first one, which is Paralititan. Now, Paralititan in Greek or Latin means tidal giant. Fossils found in northern Africa. Lived in the mid-Cretaceous, 95 million years ago. 100 feet long and would have weighed approximately 70 tons. And Paralititan is actually a sauropod, and one of the family of sauropod groups is the titanosaurs. And so, Paralititan would actually just be the largest animal in its environment, and so it would actually be pretty hard to take one down. And the only predator that would actually be worried about is Carcharodontosaurus. And so this would actually be the top predator for Paralititan, mainly to the young and the old, those kinds of things. But Paralititan, its size is its main weapon. Lived probably around near the floodplain areas of northern Africa. Most of the fossils that I've known about Paralititan is that most of them were actually found around Egypt and in Libya and all those kinds of places in northern Africa. So it would actually be around those kinds of areas, and it's kind of interesting to actually think about that. Paralititan would have actually would actually be living in these kinds of areas and probably migrating probably east to west. It probably didn't go north and south, so it probably actually either stayed where it were for a little bit, and then it would actually just go towards finding food someplace else, probably towards east and west type of migration. Probably wouldn't have done the north and south, and it probably lived in small herds like most sauropods do, and so it would actually just be a small herding animal. And it wouldn't have actually have been a very fast animal. Most sauropods are not very fast at all because of their size. And when you actually look at Paralititan, it does have the long neck. It's actually almost similar to like Brachiosaurus, where it has the long front limbs but shorter back limbs. But Titanosaurs are almost kind of like that, where they have longer front limbs and their back limbs are kind of a little bit smaller, and that would actually still have that indication of that they are just mainly just a slow-moving animal, but they probably did actually raise their neck a little bit higher enough to actually reach trees and some smaller fern, and probably some ferns that were probably medium-sized. So it would actually be feeding on those kinds of plants. It probably wouldn't have done a lot of like ground grazing where it would actually be doing, but it's not that kind of animal. But the teeth are more designed for cutting and slicing thick plants. So it would actually be more like twigs and small branches and all that sorts of stuff. And of course, the extinction of Paralititan is pretty much just climate change. Climate changes just couldn't adapt to the new environment, and like all sauropods, it does not have a very big brain, so it couldn't adapt very well, and it only relies on instinct. It wouldn't actually have adapted very well, and that's why the extinction of Paralititan actually happened. And also, the sea levels were actually rising at that particular time. And the next dinosaur we're actually going to be talking about is Siats. And Siats is actually named after a Native American monster, a mythical Native American monster, which is kind of interesting. Fossils are found in North America. Most of I know is Utah. Mid-Cretaceous 100 million years ago. About 35 feet long, approximately weighing around 4 tons. And it's a carnivore. It's one of the newest predatory dinosaurs that has been discovered. It's been discovered a couple years ago, but it's actually a very large animal. And when the media actually reported about this new find, a lot of the media was thinking like, oh, it's bigger than T-Rex. Technically, no. And you see, Tyrannosaurus Rex still holds the record as the largest carnivorous dinosaur in North America. Siats doesn't even come close to that. It would probably be a pretty close second. Saurophaganax would actually probably second, but it would actually have to be Siats that would probably be pretty close to Saurophaganax. But with Siats, with its size, it would probably be hunting down sauropods and medium-sized prey, and it would actually be particularly not particularly that fast. It would actually be slightly fast, but it would actually probably be running in speeds between probably 15 to 25 miles per hour. Same thing as a Tyrannosaurus Rex. But it's a little bit slender, so you can actually say that it might be a little bit more agile than a Tyrannosaurus Rex, because it doesn't have that muscular build like of a Tyrannosaurus Rex. And Siats is actually a carcharodontosaur, and it's actually one of the very few carcharodontosaurs that are actually found in North America. And so it was the only time that a carcharodontosaur was actually ruling North America at that particular time, around 100 million years ago. You can actually make a case that like Acrocanthosaurus was probably the only carcharodontosaur to ever live in North America, but it's actually basal carcharodontosaur, so it's not really a fully well-developed carcharodontosaur. Siats is actually a fully developed carcharodontosaur, and it would actually be living around the woodland areas, and probably would actually be hunting down the floodplains very rarely. And so, and around that time, you actually have raptor dinosaurs like Utahraptor and Deinonychus roaming around. So it would actually be pretty interesting of like how would it adapt to these kinds of predators. I would think Utahraptor would be a really interesting match for Siats, because I think Utahraptor would outwit Siats really well in the case. But there's a case that Deinonychus and Utahraptor actually lived a little bit earlier than that, so it would actually be pretty interesting of what the dromaeosaurs were actually like at that particular time. But pretty close around that time, you actually have like these weird dinosaurs that were actually around, like Falcarius and maybe some new armored dinosaurs. You start to see some of the hadrosaurs starting to be developed, but iguanodontids would still be around. And so you actually have those types of dinosaurs that were around Siats' environment, and lived in a very warm environment. So it would actually be pretty cool to actually look at it like to say it's kind of almost like a say sort of like the Gulf of Mexico type of areas, where it's really tropical, kind of almost tropical but swampy. Have all these tropical forests living around all over the place. But also you actually have some dangerous environmental factors though too. You actually have volcanoes and natural springs that were actually around during this time. So that would have been the danger. And where Siats was found, it was actually near where rocks were actually depositing of a natural spring, a volcanic spring. So it would actually be a very rugged environment. And so that would be pretty interesting to actually think about that, if why all these dinosaurs gathered here at this natural spring. Were they getting there for a drink, or did something happen to actually force these dinosaurs to actually go into this area, and then all of a sudden they just fell into the spring and actually drowned and died, or otherwise just died on impact. But I mean, it's still an interesting factor about that. But when you actually look at Siats, it does have the blade-like teeth like other Carcharodontosaurs, so it's not really designed for crushing bones. So it's actually more designed for cutting and slashing meat, not really to actually have a humongous bite force to actually crush through bones. And it's not really designed for that. It's because the jaws are kind of considered to be very weak, so they're not really designed to actually have a very powerful bite like Tyrannosaurus Rex and other Tyrannosaurs. So, but the extinction of Siats is just the environmental factors, and probably the new coming of Tyrannosaurs actually started to happen in North America, and so Tyrannosaurs were well adaptive. They actually had a bigger brain than Siats, and probably would have actually have outcompeted Siats for the main food sources, and also probably the herbivores could actually recognize Siats as a predator, and they probably had natural defenses that could actually give Siats a problem. Like some of the armored dinosaurs were actually getting really more sophisticated in their armor, like having a little bit more spikes, armored scutes, and even club-like tails. And so that would have been very hard for Siats to actually outwit. And also, hadrosaurs were actually becoming faster and more sophisticated. And even you have the development of ceratopsians, and ceratopsians would have been a very huge problem for Siats, because it couldn't actually try to understand how to actually get around them. But it could, but it just probably wouldn't have actually done it very well, like Tyrannosaurs would have. And also the Dromaeosaurs were actually getting more clever, and also they were getting faster, and also they were actually develop the weapons necessary to take down prey, and also packs would have actually have packs of Tyrannosaurs and Dromaeosaurs would have actually taken away the food sources for Siats. Alright, that's it for now, and next week will actually be another Answering Questions episode. But I'm thinking about doing another movie review of a certain prehistoric TV show or movie that you guys want me to talk about. But remember, I can actually look through my collection and actually see what I have. And but if you actually send me a request of a movie review of a certain movie or TV show, and you actually give your suggestion, and if I don't have it, I'll let you know. But if I actually think about possibly getting it, I'll think about getting it. But but otherwise, I can actually watch it on like Netflix or something like that, because I can actually find something there if I have to. And and so, for the Answer Questions episode, if you got a question about dinosaurs or any other prehistoric life, feel free to email me at dinochrist71@gmail.com, or just go on my Facebook page, Prehistoric Facts of Dino Chris. Like the page, you can actually post your questions on the wall or in the comments section on any Facebook post. But remember, keep your questions short and to the point. You can also follow me on Twitter at CSGRILL. That's my Twitter page. I post pretty cool stuff on there. And also, take care of the people around you. And also, for you younger people out there, make sure to listen to your parents, your teachers, and your guardians. Those are the best motivation you can have for good education. It's very important to have a good education. So with a good education, you do a good job in the future. If you notice, by the way, I had my bottle of water in my hand right here. It's because my throat is kind of a little bit itchy, and so it's kind of hard for me to actually talk a lot in this kind of condition. And also, I've been sneezing out of control throughout for a couple of days, but I'm starting to feel a little bit better. But anywho, see you guys next week.